Hello, friends. Robert Bevan here, author of the Caverns and Creatures series of comedy, fantasy novels, and short stories. With me is Sam West, and today we're going to be talking about the spell Transport via Plants. All right, my first inclination is to think this is another tree stride, but it's not, there are some important differences. It's not tree stride at all, really.
No, not really.
Thematically, it's similar. You walk into a plant, you walk out of a different one. But this isn't something for like to use in combat, probably. This is more, we just need to travel a long distance. And I think you compared it to Word of Recall.
Basically, yeah.
And then
So,
this is not limited to the druid that cast it. Like any creature can go through the plant, right?
yep, any creature can step into target plant and exit from the destination plant, which I love that there is canonical rules for a destination plant in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. That's just great words to me. But the whole idea of having a spell that's called Transport via Plant, just, man, that to me more than anything sounds like some like charting manifest is talking about how you're getting things from point A to point B, and you have like the shipping containers going out, and you have the helicopters, whatever, and then you also have the transport via plants, and it's just, I love that. I love the concept of it. I love the words around it, but it's pretty awful.
What is the
Transport
spell?
via plants.
Oh, you think so?
So we talked a lot about Word of Recall and why it's bad. I think this fits mainly into the same bucket. It's marginally better.
I mean, when you need to get across a long distance and you've already designated a destination plant, you know, that it's got practical value.
Yes. So
I mean, any large plant, so anywhere you're near a tree, you can get back to your cabbage patch or wherever.
That's true. I think the big meaningful upside over Word of Recall that this has is it does let you basically have every tree you've ever seen be a save point. You can just return to 100% of large foliage that you've been within spitting distance of in the last 50 years of your life, right? The question then is, how good is that? And we end up having a very similar conversation as we had with Word of Recall, where you're just talking about like, okay, in combat, if someone's unconscious, they can't go through this, and you only have a round to do it. So the combat applications of it seem kind of suspect, but then you also have like that, well, you can get people up and they can run through it conceivably on their turn, so maybe that's good.
I don't know. I'm not necessarily looking at this as like, I guess I don't remember why, but with Word of Recall, I was thinking about it exclusively like, oh my God, everything's gone to hell. We got to get out of here. This one, I'm just thinking, we've been out for a few days. We haven't found the messenger we're looking for or whatever. It's time to head back. Let's everybody hop in the shrub.
I think for that purpose, the spell is really innocent in that it's a 6th level druid spell, so you can just prepare it after your long rest. Like, let's say you are in that environment. Let's say you have gone through the whole rigmarole of adventuring and you get to the end of it and you're just like, I want to go back home. I normally, as the DM, I'm kind of like, well, the end of the adventure normally signals that there's some kind of epilogue, some sort of movement through back to the next beginning spot. And that's what I consider to be the game's fast travel. I think narrative exposition tends to be the best form of fast travel in 5e. And this facilitates narrative exposition, if you will. But it, like, I don't think it's that important, but having it isn't harmful, namely again because you can prepare it, and because it always, you don't have to prepare it ahead of time, you don't have to designate a location to go back to. It's always just like, oh, hey, we're done adventuring, we finished a long rest, I'll prepare transport via plans, we'll just head right back to town. That's the kind of use case for it. I just don't think that's that valuable of a use case.
Well, I mean, yeah, if it's compared against narrative exposition, but I just think there are other times where you want to travel long distances, and not just at the end of an adventure, but maybe you have some news that the king needs to hear right away.
Sure.
So you transport to the ficus in his throne room.
Yep. For that purpose, it is all right. I think probably like twice a game you're going to have that kind of time sensitive event. I think there aren't going to be let's talk about twice a campaign, I should say. You're going to have some big thing where you're going to uncover, oh God, the dragon's coming to eat them all. We have to get back and let the guards know before the apocalypse happens. We have to let them know before the Kraken breaches the shore. We have to let them know before the mind flayers bring their nautiloid ships down from the heavens and start eating people's brains. And then you have transport via plans, and you go, okay, great. I prepare it. We travel the 300 miles or whatever it is back to where we started, and we let everyone know that, oh God, the giant old ones are rising from the oceans to eat us in 3 days' time. We have to prepare. Fine. That's kind of what the spell does. Its existence makes that happen, and it basically says if you have a druid in your party, you have access to that feature. Because this is, again, kind of more of a feature in that instance than it is really a spell. This is something to prepare after a long rest, to use a spell slot you wouldn't have been using otherwise to get back to where you need to go, right? This isn't something that I think you're very often going to be using adventuring to go places. Although it does have a little bit more utility in that environment than Word of Recall does too. It lets you say, like, okay, if we notice that there's some bad things happening, I'm going to make this plant that is nearby us the plant right outside, and we'll have a quick gate to where we need to get to. That can be something interesting. This can also be something where it's like, let's go do some reconnaissance, like innocently travel into a manor or an estate or something that has an internal garden. You can say, oh, that's such a beautiful tree you have that I have seen. And then you leave, and then in the middle of the night, you tree strike, or you transport.
I had a different idea. Well, a similar idea. Trojan horse it. Hey, I would like to give you this beautiful, exotic, and exceptionally large plant.
I love that so much. The druid goes out and goes, why are you cultivating that enormous rose bush? And he's like, shh, this is our entry point. This is how we get in. Yeah, that's incredible. I love that. I need that to happen now. Bob, you've done a great job convincing me this spell isn't utter trash. I came into this thinking like, yeah, this is just another bad word to recall. Okay, there's a lot more practical use here than I was thinking.
Oh, all right, how about this? Could you cast a wall of thorns and then use that?
It does say it has to be inanimate. I'm going to say that the wall of thorns that you threw out of the ground is probably animated.
Well, in that instance.
Yeah, how good is it then?
I don't know.
If you're doing it outside of that instance, right? So let's say yes, sure, you can move across your wall of thorns. I don't know if it matters.
What's the range on that?
Why not?
Any kind of spell with a long range that you could just summon a large plant.
Sure.
I don't know. That could get you across a ravine or something.
For 2 6-level spell slots, you can get across a ravine as a druid. Seems like that may not be where you'll want to be.
You can get the whole party there.
Sure. It is nice that it doesn't require concentration, even though it has a duration, so you can just cast this while doing other things and then do your mobility stuff. I'm not sure about the wall of thorns shenanigans. I think that if you do the Trojan horse stuff, it's a lot more interesting. And I think if you find ways to get large plants where you want them to be, and you can be confident they're going to stay there, that's fun. I also love the idea of if you know you're against an evil doer with transport via plants, or if you are the DMing against the do-gooders with transport via plants, you have real reasons to just ecologically destroy places. Just take the flamethrowers out and burn forests to the ground to prevent people from coming back via transport via plants. It can be a very evil, destroy all plant life in the vicinity so they can't get to us kind of objective, which I think is neat. I think there's something to be said for a neat little event where there's an evil druid that's hell-bent on killing all of humanity because the ecological terrorist to the extreme, right? That kind of archetype. And then you have the party has to make some hard decisions of, well, they have transport via plant. We know they've seen all of the places around here. How do we best mitigate them entering in and killing everyone? How best we mitigate them coming and destroying and bringing their armies of evil blights or whatever to come kill us all? And you have to weed out all the large plants and try and keep a safe perimeter. That can be neat. That can be a neat little adventuring tool. So yeah, it's cool.
I thought of another one.
Hit me with it.
You throw a tomato over the wall and cast enlarge plant or plant growth.
Yep.
You got this giant tomato, and you can come out of it.
I don't know if that works, but I love it.
It totally works. There's nothing wrong with that.
Oh, 2 possible uses. Cast spell action on normal plants become thick and overgrown, or you can make things fertile. Those are the 2 things that plant growth does. That's not quite enlarge reduce. Oh, I don't think. Listen, in my heart of hearts, though, as a DM, if someone wanted to do that, I would say yes. I'd be like, absolutely, you're going to make a giant tomato that you can explode out of. You're using a 3rd level spell slot and a 6th level spell slot for Dimension Door-ish, so yeah, go for it.
I'm just using it because I want to do that.
Yeah, it's a great reason to do it. That's what D&D is all about, frankly.
Yeah.
Ultimately, how is a 6th level spell worth this effect? Probably not. But like, I think there are other ways to do mostly what you would want to do with this. That being said, it's silly. It has very low costs at doing the one thing it's good at doing, which is like the warning
To be
kind
fair,
of thing.
I made
The
it
retro,
silly.
like going backwards. It's called transport via plants,
Yeah,
Bob.
all
It's
right,
by
that's true.
definition silly. So like, it's harmless in its best case scenario, and it can be a fine thing that's just nice to have on a spell list. And having something to like a class, the spell lists in and of itself get to be kind of like class features, and this is an example of that, where it's like, okay, I just prepare this whenever we need to go back somewhere. It's not really costing me a slot most of the time. It's minimum case scenarios, fine, very castable. And then you will have some neat instances where you're like, I want to do this cool Trojan horse thing, or I want to make the giant exploding tomato gimmick happen, or I want to, for some reason, transport via plants our wall of thorns. Sure, it can do that too. It can be the silliness for the druids that want to have that kind of silliness. It can still also have some decent amount of utility in there. Man, you've saved this. I thought this was a 2 out of 5. I think this is better than that. This is probably like a 3. This is probably perfectly acceptable.
All right, I was gonna give it a 3 as well, because I gave the other one, Tree Stride, a 2, and I didn't want to put it on the same level. But I agree with you. It's probably not useful for most cases, but yeah, middle of the road. Maybe a little less, but you know, with a yeah, I'm not doing half stars, so yeah, 3.
Nailed it.
All right. Well, thank you, Sam, and thank you everyone for listening. That was Transport via Plants. We will see you next time. Goodbye. Thank you for watching. If you found this helpful, informative, or entertaining, I'd really appreciate it if you hit the like button below. You needn't smash it. A gentle tap will suffice. If you want to see more videos like this, subscribe to the channel. And make sure you check out the links in the description, where you'll find my Caverns and Creatures series of comedy fantasy novels, Sam's full review of the spell, and other fun things.